creating a SMART goal. So we've got this sheet. So quite often, as the name implies, we would use this SMART method for creating our goal, our overall goal. But because we're dealing with just a small proportion of that potentially as one habit within the goal, we want to make this related to a habit rather than the overall goal. So if your overall goal is that you want to lose weight, but your habit that you've chosen for the program is that you're going to eat your 5 a day, for example, then this needs to relate to the eating the 5 a day, not to the overall goal of the losing weight. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So here we have SMART written down the side, and we can see that this is an acronym, and it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time bound. There's quite a few subtle variations actually on SMART goals, but this is the one that I like, makes most sense to me. So as we fill this in, we really want to nail down exactly what it is that we plan to do with this habit change. So for my example for this one, I'm going to choose Imaginary Mary, and her goal is going to be that she wants to drink 2 litres of water per day. So that in itself is already quite specific. So she might have initially just said, oh, I want to drink more water. So that would be quite a vague goal. So coming into specific, straight away we're nailing it down. It needs to be 2 litres of water. So we've got how much of it is, what it is, it's water, it's not going to be Coke, it's not 2 litres of liquid, or it's not 2 litres of anything other than alcohol, whatever. So we're quite specific, it's 2 litres of water per day, so that's another specific thing, you know, rather than just more water, which might be we drink more one day but not the next. So it's a daily goal of achieving that. There may be something in there around that she wants to get it all drunk, or the most of it drunk by 6 p.m. so that she's not up all night weeing or something like that. So there could be some specifics around that. It might be that it makes sense to her that she drinks the bulk of it in the morning, in her lunch break and in the evening or something, so she might have some preference on how she splits that up throughout the day. Or even per hour or something like that. So be very, very specific about what the habit is going to be. Measurable. So again, we've already alluded to that it's going to be our 2 litres. So that's an easy measure, isn't it? Because we've already decided that. But how are we going to know if we've got 2 litres? So if we're drinking that out of a cup, for example, we're going to need to know how many cups equals 1 litre. So that might not necessarily be the most effective way of measuring it, but if it's all we got, then it will do, won't it? So quite popular these days are water bottles. So you might need to know how big is your water bottle. Is it a 500ml bottle? Is it a 750 bottle? Is it a litre bottle? Have you got one of those big ones with the big old handle on it? That you see people in the gym with now, that's like 2 litres or 5 litres and all of these kind of things. Some of them you can get now have got the lines, drink this by 10 a.m, drink this by lunchtime, see what your line's going down, and then it's a refill midday to bring it back into the evening, those kind of things. So how are you going to measure to make sure that you know that you've achieved your 2 litres of water per day? The next one is it achievable? So arguably, I mean, if this wasn't a SMART acronym, you'd probably want to be checking that out first before you went any further with anything. Is it achievable? Is this something that has been proven to be possible? So if your goal was to drink 15 litres of water a day, okay, it probably is achievable. You're going to spend a lot of time in the loo. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. If your goal was to drink 100 litres of water a day, probably not achievable. Probably not a thing. Yeah. So is it achievable? Has somebody shown that this can be done in the past? Is it a doable thing that you're trying to do? The next thing is it realistic? So although someone may have done it, is it realistic for you? So if Mary's goal is to drink 2 litres of water a day, but she's got a bladder control problem, then it may not be a realistic goal for her, particularly if she's in an environment where she can't get to a toilet when she needs to. So it might not be a realistic goal for her, or she may need to look back at the specifics of it and how she's doing it. So it may need to be that the bulk of her water is drunk in the evenings once she's back at home, and you know, she can get to a toilet when she needs to. So that's the difference between your achievable and your realistic. So ultra marathons are achievable. Lots of people can run an ultra marathon. Is it realistic for me to run one? Not at this precise moment. Wouldn't be a realistic goal for me. It might be if I was going to do it in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, something like that. But at the moment, you know, I can maybe run 5 miles or 10 miles. To run 100 miles would not be a realistic goal for me right at this moment. So that's the difference between those. It's achievable, yes, but it's not particularly realistic. And the last one is time bound. So we need to put time limits, time restraints on what we're doing. So for a lot of these habits, a lot of you, the time restraint is broadly speaking going to be the length of this program, 40 days. So what you're going to achieve in the 40 days. Depending on what your habit is, it may be a daily habit, it may be an hourly habit, it may be a 3 times a week habit or something like that. So it may be something that you review at the end of a week or at the end of 2 weeks. So look at the time restraints on it and when you're going to measure and reassess on those time bound things. So for Imaginary Mary and her drinking her 2 litres a day, time bound is going to be daily. And then we might put in there that we want to achieve 2 litres of water per day for 14 days. So we're going to do it for 14 days straight, yeah, so that we start to build that into a habit rather than just a thing that some days we did it and some days we didn't. So the time bound is the consistency as well. Okay, so have a little go at that. SMART goals. Again, if you're unable to print this out, it's quite simple, isn't it? Just to jot down on a notepad. Hopefully you can at least open it on your phone or your computer and see what it is. If not, there are lots of versions of SMART goals online. You can just Google SMART goal. As I say, they do vary slightly with the acronym on what the letters mean, but it all gets to the same outcome. So I don't mind if you're using a slightly different variation, it will get you to the same end.